Hello, this is Greg from SharePoint Maven, and in this video I'm going to explain to you everything you need to know about audience targeting. So first of all, what is audience targeting in SharePoint? Let me explain. So audience targeting is the ability to display different information to different users once they access a particular SharePoint site or a page. For example, what you see right now on the screen is an example of an intranet site, and essentially the idea here is that all the employees might access this particular site to read news and announcements and links and maybe access some events that have been posted to this SharePoint site. However, let's say you are part of a multinational corporation, right? If it's a small organization, maybe you will just leave it as is. But let's say you are part of a little bit larger organization. Maybe you have offices in different, cities. Within US or maybe even somewhere in the world. So long story short, you have different groups of users, you have different audiences, and when you maybe post some announcements, you only want those announcements to be seen by the users from a particular office or region. For example, again, I'll just use maybe the news example, right? You post an announcement about some meeting that is only meant for employees in US, so employees in Canada or in Europe don't even need to kind of know about this at all, right? Or maybe there is a particular event that you posted in the calendar, and again, it only needs to be seen by the users that only need to see that event. Likewise, let's say you have links to different policies, company policies, maybe even employee handbooks, but let's just say you have an employee handbook for essentially workers in US. Maybe you have a separate employee handbook for or workers in Canada and other countries, right? Each employee handbook is different. So if I'm logged in and I'm an employee from US, I only need to see the link to the policy, to the handbook that is meant for US employees. So hopefully what I just mentioned makes sense so far. One important thing I also want you to note, and it is so important I decided to capture it on a slide for you here. Audience targeting is not the same as security and permission. Security and permissions has to do with whether or not users have access to a particular piece of information. For example, a document or a particular announcement. In contrast, audience targeting is whether or not the user will see that information displayed on a page once they are logged in to a given SharePoint site. And that is super important. Ironically, audience targeting does rely on security group, but they're not the same. Just to make sure you understand the difference between security and permissions and audience targeting, let me give you an example. I might use, I'll use the news and announcements example again. So here's obviously our intranet, and we have this main page, and on that main page, I embedded a news web part, and at the moment, it displays those two announcements. As I already mentioned previously, what I can do is set up audience targeting essentially on this news web part and configure it such that this particular announcement will only be seen by the employees from US and not any other region, not any other country. So that's audience targeting. So if I'm logged in and I'm from US, right, I will see that announcement. If let's say John Smith logs in and John is from Canada, he's not going to see the announcement. That's audience targeting. However, if John, let's say, decides to click the gear icon, Site Contents, and then navigate to the Site Pages library, John will get to see those announcements, even though they, were targeted through audience targeting on the main page. He will still see those announcements in here. Why? because security-wise, right, in terms of security and permissions, he still has, access to those types of content. And just to kind of show you what I mean by that, you see John does have access to the site. He has read-only access to the site because he's part of everyone group. So even though he's not going to see that announcement on the main page, because that's set up through audience targeting, if John navigates and knows where to find that content, whether maybe it's a document library with documents, or in our case, site pages library with pages, he will get to see that announcement in here, and he will be able to access it and read it. When it comes to setting up audience targeting, there are 5 areas where you can set audience targeting, where you can configure it. The first one is navigation. Doesn't really matter whether it's site or hub navigation. So if you have, let's say, built an intranet and on the top of the site you have that site or hub navigation with links going to different sites and different types of content and just links, in general going anywhere on your navigation, you can target them. You can hide some of those from some users through audience targeting. The second area where you can set up audience targeting is the news web part. Once again, if you have news and announcements intended for different audiences, you can target those different posts within the news web part. Likewise, we can also target events in a calendar. If you do utilize the events web part, we can display events based on the user who is logged in. You can also set up audience targeting on quick links. If you link, once again, anywhere using the quick links web part, you can target those links and you can display them based on the user who is logged in. And finally, you can also configure audience targeting within the highlighted content web part. This is a web part you would typically use to query, let's say, for some documents, roll up and aggregate some documents from a site, maybe, or multiple sites. And in case if you do, you can also set up audience targeting on this web part as well. So what I'm going to do for the remainder of this tutorial is essentially show you how to set up audience targeting in each and every area listed here on the slide. So let's start with site navigation. So this is what I mean by site navigation, right? Each and every site has navigation elements. This happens to be a communication site, so the navigation is on top of the screen. In case if you have a team site, then the navigation will be on the left-hand side, and you have the exact same ability to set up audience targeting there. It kind of works the same way. So let me show you how to set up audience targeting on navigation links. So the use case I'm going to use is this. So let's say we have all these different links, and you know what? This benefits tab should only be seen by, again, certain groups of users and not by everyone within the organization. So that's the use case. What you need to do is click the edit button. And by default, the links are seen by everyone. What you need to do at the bottom, enable the switch, enable site navigation audience targeting. So you enable it. So that's step number 1. The second step, you click on a label or a link. So let's say I want to hide this link, and you get an extra box over here, audiences to target. By the way, it doesn't even have to be a link. Like right here, you see it's just a label that I have. All right, so maybe I want to organize a bunch of links, doesn't really matter, but you do get an extra, box over here. And it says audiences to target, and you can specify up to 10. Now, very important, you cannot type in the users' names in here. It has to be the security groups. And what do I mean by security groups? Well, they can either be Microsoft 365 groups, the ones you get when you create a team site or when you create a team in Microsoft Teams application. And it can also be an Active Directory or Entra ID security group. These groups would typically be created and set up and managed by your IT department. So just to show you first, by Microsoft 365 group, what I mean is the group that's created when you create a team site or Microsoft Teams, right? And essentially, it's this group right here. So Mary and I were team members, and I have another user who is, John. He is not part of the group, so we're going to use John as an example for our audience targeting. It can also be a security group that is set up by your IT department. Those Azure AD, as we used to call them, or Entra, Microsoft Entra ID groups. And let me just quickly navigate and show you what I'm talking about. So we are going to the Microsoft 365 Admin Center. And once in Microsoft 365 Admin Center, essentially we're going to active teams and groups. And over here, this are all the security groups that are listed here. So Microsoft 365 groups are listed here. Those are the ones that are typically created by the users when they create a team. And then those are security groups that are typically created by your IT department. You cannot use a distribution list. Very important, all right? You cannot use a distribution list if it's just an email list. It has to be a security group. And I think we are also going to rely maybe on this one, this accounting group. And let's see what the membership is here. So again, Greg and Mary are part of that group. John is not, so we're going to use this security group for our training. The reason I'm showing this to you is, so you understand what will happen later behind the scenes when we actually utilize those security groups in our examples. So back to our example with navigation audience targeting, we have to specify a security group, and I can either type in that Microsoft 365 group that I showed you, all right? Or we can add that accounting group. Remember, accounting group is the security group I just showed you. And again, you can specify up to 10 security groups. I'm going to click OK. And once you set up audience targeting, you are going to get this little icon that means that this audience has been targeted. And all you have to do is just click Save. Now, on this other screen, I'm logged in as John. And once I refresh the page, so after I set up audience targeting, this benefits label should disappear. So let's give it a try. And just like that, after I refresh the page, you can see that the benefits label is gone. Why? Because remember I showed you John was not part of that accounting group. Before we leave this topic, just also wanted to make sure you understand that you can set up this audience targeting on any type of site. So remember, on a team site, we have navigation on the left-hand side. Same idea. You can just click the edit button, enable audience targeting, and set it up the audience targeting on a team site as well. You can also set up audience targeting on hub navigation. Hub navigation is this global navigation that you can create in case if, let's say, you are creating an internet portal and you are combining a number of sites and you want to kind of build a common navigation among all those different sites. And I think actually audience targeting works quite well in the context of hub navigation. Let me explain to you the use case. Again, I'm logged in as John here, and John is an employee, but he is not part of human resources department. Yet, on the team sites, he will get to see the links to all those different team sites. Those are private restricted sites, only accessible by that particular team. So even though John is not part of HR, he will get to see the label essentially, right, with a link within the navigation. When John clicks on that link, he will get access denied. Why? Because he's not part of that HR team. So here is what you need to do to prevent this. What we can do is, again, set up audience targeting such that when John is logged in, he is not going to see this label within the navigation. All right, so we don't even want him to know about this. We don't want him to click on this. Let me show you how to do that. So in this particular case, we're going to rely on the Microsoft 365 group. And just to show you what I'm talking about again, if I navigate to this team site, Let's check and confirm the membership. I'm the owner, Mary is the member. John is not part of this Microsoft 365 group. So we're going to rely on that same name to essentially prevent John and others from even seeing this label in the navigation. So for that, we pretty much follow the same steps as before. We click Edit button next to navigation, hub navigation in our case. We need to enable that audience targeting. Then we scroll up and we want to hide that link, remember, that we have under our team site. And again, we get this extra box. By the way, if you leave this box blank, everyone will still see that particular label. All right, so you have to populate something in here. And what we are going to do, we are going to essentially populate this right here, HR team members, and click OK. That's the same name as that Microsoft 365 group. Click OK. And again, we get this icon. That means that this label, this link has been targeted, and click Save. And back on the browser where I'm logged in as John, let's double check if it works. So if John hovers over under the team site, look at this. That link to HR is gone. So there is no way, I guess, John can even click on that link and get access denied. So that's essentially audience targeting on the navigation links. By the way, in some cases, right, if you are testing things out, you might need to actually exit completely, exit the browser and log in again. Sometimes when you refresh the screen, you might not see the changes right away. So you will actually need to close the entire browser and just come back and log in again for audience targeting to take effect. Let's now proceed with the next area where you can set up audience targeting, and that would be the news web part. I think the instructions from now on will be a little bit quicker because now we established the foundation and the security group. So now I think we can proceed in a much faster pace. So in order to set up audience targeting on the news web part, there are actually like 3 places where you need to enable that feature. So let me explain. So the first place where we need to enable audience targeting would be the site pages library. All the news posts you create within the news web part, they have been stored inside of the site pages library because every time you create a news post, another SharePoint page is being created. So let me show you that. Let's navigate to the site pages library. So you click gear icon, site contents, and then you click site pages library. That's where all your pages reside, and once again you get a page for each and every announcement. So here's what you need to do to enable it, the audience targeting at the library level. You click on the gear icon, library settings, more library settings, and then once on this page you need to click on audience targeting settings and click that checkbox. So that's very important. If you don't do this step, you will not be able to set up audience targeting on the news web part. So make sure you do that. Click OK. The next place where you need to enable audience targeting for news posts is the news web part itself. So you click the Edit Page option, and we are editing the news web part. Click pencil icon and scroll all the way almost all the way down. At the bottom over here, you will see this toggle, enable audience targeting. So make sure you do that. And we're going to republish after we make the changes. And the third and final place now is the news post itself. So I'm going maybe to pick on this announcement. Obviously, you can set up audience targeting when you create a brand new announcement. I already have one. So I'm going to click on this, and let's hide it from John again. I'm going to click the Edit button, and under Page Details, this is where we control additional properties for our news post. And you will get an extra field. After you enable all these different checkboxes for audience targeting, you're going to get an extra box over here called Audience. Again, if you leave it blank, essentially the news post will be seen by everyone. But you know what? Let's limit it. Remember that accounting group. That's a regular security group that I have, and I'm going to update the news. So all the changes have been saved. And on this particular browser, I'm logged in as John. So after we made all these different changes to the news web part, you can see that this particular event is gone and essentially not visible. However, as you recall a little bit earlier, I mentioned the difference between audience targeting and security. If John navigates to gear icon, site contents, site pages library, John will be able to see that event and access it here. All right, once again, that's the difference between audience targeting and security. So let's now proceed with the another area where you can set up audience targeting. That would be the events web part. Before I actually explain kind of the steps, I want to make sure we understand the difference between different calendar options. So you can see some events here that are populated, and the web part I used for this was the events web part. If you recall, when you try to add, let's say, a calendar to your page, you have two options. We have two options in SharePoint to choose from. We have the events web part and group calendar. This group calendar is essentially an Outlook-based calendar that's created when you create a team site, right? When you create a team site, it creates a Microsoft 365 group, and obviously it creates a group calendar for that team in Outlook. That's not the one where we're going to display, where we're going to set audience targeting. We cannot do it here. The web part we can only set it on is the events web part, and that's essentially what you see here. And this events web part is pretty much a SharePoint-based calendar we had for many, many years. Now, just like with the news web part, there are several steps involved. There are several locations where we need to kind of enable all the settings. So let me show you all of those to you. And by the way, going forward, now that we established the foundation with audience targeting groups, I think it will become a little bit, quicker in terms of the pace. So I'm going to navigate to site contents, gear icon, site contents. The first place where we have to enable audience targeting would be the events list itself. By the way, this events that you see on the page, this is what it looks like behind the scenes. This is just a good old SharePoint-based calendar that we had. But where we want to go, the first location is this three dots settings. And just like with site pages, we get to see audience targeting settings. And you need to enable the checkbox, enable audience targeting. I guess there are two of them here. One references the modern experience and another the classic. Make sure to enable the checkbox, the top one. Enable audience targeting, click OK. The second place where you need to enable audience targeting for this widget would be the web part itself. So we are going to click the edit button, pencil here in the middle of the page, of that pane on the right, enable audience targeting. And don't forget to republish. And then the third location would be the event itself, just like a news post, right, on the news web part. So you can obviously set up audience targeting for as you create new events, but I already have a few events. So let's just say, you know what, this town hall meeting, we need to hide it from John. John is from another country. John should not even see this event on the screen. So we're going to click on that, and we're going to edit the event. And you are getting an extra box. Remember, after all those settings, you get that extra audience box, and we can set up to 50 groups in here. And remember, you cannot type in the users' names. You see, I'm trying to type in Mary, it doesn't accept it. It has to be the name of the security group, and I'm once again going to utilize this accounting group. Remember, John is not part of the group. So essentially what I'm telling SharePoint, please display this event only to the users in this security group. I'm going to click Save. And obviously, I'm part of the group. So I still get to see this event. But now let's navigate to John's browser. So I'm logged in as John here. Once I refresh the screen, you're going to notice that this event is gone. So let's do that. I'm going to refresh the screen. And just like that, John doesn't get to see that event. Again, if John navigates to that list through gear icon site contents, he will get to see that particular event in there, but it's just going to be hidden through audience targeting from the events web part. The fourth location where you can set up audience targeting would be the quick links web part, which is what you see here. Again, if you're not familiar with that web part, this is the one I'm talking about right here, quick links. I already have it, so we're not going to add an extra one. And there are only a few places where to set audience targeting on the quick links. The first one would be the web part itself. So you click the pencil icon, and once again, we have this enable audience targeting option over here. So we enable it. And then we can set up audience targeting on each and every link. And to do that, once again, we click the edit button. Now you click on each and every link, all right, each and every link, and then click the pencil icon. And once you enable that audience targeting, once again, you get that extra box. And again, I'm excluding John. I'm just, I want this policies to be seen just by accounting group, and John is not part of that group. I'm going to click republish. And once again, I'm going to navigate to John's browser over here. When I refresh the screen, we should not see this link. Just like that, you see it disappeared. The fifth and final place where you can set up audience targeting would be the highlighted content web part. And this is the web part that you would use for aggregation of content. Let's say you have documents in the different libraries on a site or maybe multiple sites. And essentially what you do, you create a query of using the highlighted content web part to bring all of those documents together. Just to kind of show you first what this web part is all about, and then I'll demonstrate to you the actual kind of setup. So this is this web part, all right? It actually allows you to roll up different types of content. There are quite a few capabilities here. In my particular case, I'm just aggregating all the documents that I have for this tutorial. I'm just aggregating them from the site, but it could be multiple sites and multiple, different document libraries. So let's go ahead and set up audience targeting for highlighted content web part. There are actually quite a few steps involved. So what we need to do first, so just to show you the use case, on my site, I have a document library and just a few documents, right? Obviously, you can have as many as you wish. So the first place where we need to enable audience targeting would be the library itself. So we need to, if you have multiple libraries, you need to set up audience targeting on all of those different libraries. To do that, navigate to the library, and then you click on gear icon, library settings, more library settings, and audience targeting settings. Okay, so same steps we did for the site pages library and events list. And once again, we need to enable the checkbox. So that is location number one. You enable audience targeting essentially within the library settings. Next, we navigate to this particular library, and what you're going to notice is an extra column that would appear on that particular library. So once you enable the checkbox, an extra column would appear. And this is where you set up the audiences for different documents. So for example, I have a total of 3 documents, and I only want this document to be able to be seen by accounting group. So what you're going to do is tag it with audience being essentially that particular group, just like that. So I'm going to set that up right here. And let's do the same. And you can see it being populated over here. Let's do the same to this other document, all right? So I'm going to, once again, just say it can only be accounting, just like that. And of course, once again, we see accounting group populated. So essentially what we just said, we want those 2 documents to be visible and displayed to accounting group only. Once you set that up, so there is only one step that remains. We need to go to our home page. And of course, you will add the, by the way, if you need to add this highlighted content web port, that's exactly what it is called. And yeah, right here, it's under frequently used. I guess I use it so many times, so that's what it's called. I already have it. I already have it. And then what I'm going to do is click the pencil icon. The final step, the third and final step would be to enable audience targeting toggle over here. And again, click republish. Now on this particular browser, I'm logged in as John. And as you can see, John only gets to see this one document. By the way, it took a while for it to take effect. It was not as quick as with news or events or quick links. Essentially here, it took about 10 minutes for this to take effect, probably because highlighted content web part, the way it works, it's a query. All right, it does a query, so it does probably take some time to propagate. But eventually, remember, I had a total of 3 documents I was querying, and it only shows me essentially the only one that I didn't set a target audience on. Once again, I want to make it clear, if John navigates to the document library itself, John will get to see all the documents within the library. It's all, and again, that's where the difference between security and permissions and audience targeting is. Audience targeting is about displaying the information. All right, security is something else, so just want to make it clear. So that's all I really wanted to show you in this particular tutorial. Hopefully you learned something new. I find this audience targeting feature quite useful, and I think it pretty much allows you to personalize, content on your intranet to different audiences. And if you're building a hub, you can almost build like a personal navigation, right? Or user only gets to see the navigation links that they have access to or should see. And then if you publish news and events, they only get to see the ones, once again, the users need to see. Same with quick links, right? You can link, you can have maybe 55 links on your internet landing page, but maybe there are only a few that should be seen by a different groups of users. And finally, even though I find it less of a use case for this, but highlighted content web part, if you're doing queries, if you are rolling up content, once again you can use that trick to pretty much query only and display the content that the users need to see. But for now, thank you very much for watching this tutorial. As always, happy to see you on my blog, SharePointMaven.com, as well as my YouTube channel. Thank you very much. Goodbye.